Hello, my friends. Welcome again, and a warm welcome to all new learners. I'm truly happy that you're here today. Today, I want to share something very special with you. This is not just a simple story or a random lesson. It is a real experience, something that happened in my own life, something that touched me deeply and changed the way I see the world. And maybe, just maybe, it can change your life too. Sometimes, one moment, one lesson, or one small experience can open our eyes and help us understand life in a new way. That is why I want you to listen carefully. So take your headphones, relax, and give yourself a few peaceful minutes. Let your mind settle. Let your heart be open. As you listen to my story, focus on the words, the pronunciation, and the feelings behind every sentence. You will learn a lot of English from it, not only new vocabulary and expressions, but also the rhythm, the tone, and the natural flow of the language. Now let's begin. This is my story, and I hope it becomes meaningful for you too.
Hello, my name is Emma. I was born into a rich and important family in Tyrone, Ireland. Our house was large and beautiful. People in the town would look at it and say, "What a lucky family." But they didn't know the truth. Behind the tall walls and shining windows, there was no laughter. There was no love, only silence, sadness, and cold eyes. I was the youngest of two daughters. My sister, Grace, was 4 years older than me. She was smart, kind, and beautiful. She used to read stories to me, braid my hair, and tell me to be strong when I cried. She was not just my sister, she was my only friend in that house. Our parents never played with us. They didn't smile at us. They only cared about their business, their reputation, and one thing more than anything else: having a son. From the day I was born, I could feel I was unwanted. My mother didn't hold me with love. My father didn't even come to see me in the hospital. They had waited 9 months, hoping for a boy. But I was not him. I was just another daughter, another disappointment. They named me Emma without joy. They dressed me well, fed me well. But they never gave me the thing I needed most: love. Grace protected me. She made jokes to make me smile. She shared her books and whispered stories at night to help me sleep. "Don't worry," she used to say. "One day we'll leave this house. One day we'll be free." But that day never came for her. One rainy night, when I was just 9 years old, everything changed forever. Grace had gone out with her friends. She never came back. There was an accident, a car crash. She died before she reached the hospital. I remember the phone call, the scream from the maid, the sound of my mother's crying. Not because she lost Grace, but because she had now lost her only hope. Grace was the child they had accepted, the one they believed could carry their name, even though she was a girl. After Grace died, the house grew colder. My mother stopped speaking to me. My father started ignoring me completely. I became invisible. At breakfast, they read the newspaper. At dinner, they stared at their plates. I ate in silence. No one asked if I was okay. No one hugged me. They had lost the daughter they cared about. And I was the one left behind. The one they never wanted. At school, I tried to be normal. I smiled with my classmates, studied hard, and stayed quiet. But inside, I was empty. At night, I cried in bed, holding Grace's old sweater. It still smelled like her. Sometimes I talked to her, pretending she was listening. "I miss you," I would whisper. "Why did you leave me here alone?" The only place I found peace was in books. I spent hours in the library, reading stories about brave girls, kind families, and dreams that came true. I used to close my eyes and imagine a different life, one where I was loved, where someone waited for me at the door, called my name with joy, and hugged me tight. But every day, I woke up to the same cold house, the same cold faces. My mother became bitter. My father became more distant. They often argued at night. I heard my name in the middle of the fights. "She's no use," my father once shouted. "We needed a boy." My heart broke again and again. I was not enough, and I couldn't change that. When I turned 16, I stopped hoping they would love me. I focused on school. I worked hard. I won awards. I stayed quiet and respectful. Still, they didn't notice. On my birthday, I got no card, no cake. Just another empty dinner with no words spoken. That night, I made a promise to myself. I would leave this house one day. I would build my own life. I would never beg for love again. The day I turned 18, I stood by the window of my room and watched the rain fall. The garden looked the same, but I didn't. I was not the little girl who cried herself to sleep anymore. I am stronger now. Quiet, yes, but no longer weak. That morning, I looked at myself in the mirror and whispered, "You don't belong here, Emma. It's time." I had secretly applied for scholarships to universities across Ireland. I knew my parents wouldn't support me, not with money, not with a smile, not even with a word. I didn't expect them to, but I worked hard, stayed at the top of my class, and finally, one small college in Dublin accepted me. They offered a place to live, food, and enough to study. When I received the letter, I held it in my hands and cried. Not because I was sad, but because for the first time in my life, I had something that was truly mine. I packed my small suitcase at night. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't think they'd notice. The next morning, I walked down the stairs slowly. My father sat at the dining table reading the newspaper, as always. My mother sipped her tea without looking at me. I placed a small note on the table. "Thank you for everything. I'm leaving to build my own life. Emma." I walked out the door without a single goodbye from them. The air outside felt cold on my skin, but fresh in my lungs. I was free, not in money, not in certainty, but in choice. In Dublin, life was not easy. My room was small and cold. I shared the bathroom with 3 other girls. Sometimes we didn't have hot water. I ate simple meals, toast and tea most days, and instant noodles when things were really hard. But I was happy. I was finally in a place where I could breathe, learn, and exist without feeling like a mistake. At university, I studied literature. I loved reading about people who suffered but still survived. I saw pieces of myself in them, especially in the quiet, strong women who turned their pain into power. I spent hours in the library, sometimes forgetting to eat, just lost in books. And slowly, people started to notice me. Professors praised my essays. A girl named Aisha became my best friend. She was kind, full of life, and always reminded me that the world was bigger than pain. Still, there were hard days. Days when I missed Grace so much it hurt to breathe. Nights when I dreamed of my parents, not the real ones, but the version I had always wished for. Loving, kind, proud. I would wake up with tears in my eyes and hold on to my pillow like it was the only thing left in the world that hadn't abandoned me. To make money, I worked at a bookstore near campus. It paid little, but I loved being surrounded by stories. The owner, Mr. Duffy, was a quiet man in his 60s. He never asked too many questions, but he always saved me a warm cup of tea on rainy days. One evening, as we closed the shop, he said, "You have sadness in your eyes, Emma, but you also have fire. Don't let the sadness win." That night, I began writing my own story. I wrote about a girl who was never loved, never wanted, but who still rose, like a flower growing through cracks in the pavement. I didn't know if it would become a book or just stay in my journal. But writing helped me breathe. It helped me heal. And one day, something happened that changed everything. It was a quiet Tuesday morning in Dublin. The sky was gray, and the streets were wet from last night's rain. I had just returned from my part-time job at the bookstore. As I climbed the stairs to my tiny apartment, I saw something unusual. A letter sitting on the floor just outside my door. There was no stamp, no sender name. But the handwriting stopped me. It was slow, uneven, and a little shaky. I knew that handwriting. It was my mother's. For a moment, I couldn't move. I just stood there, staring at the envelope. I hadn't seen or heard from my parents in almost 2 years. Not a single message. Not even when I sent them a copy of my university graduation certificate. I had convinced myself that they didn't care, and I had taught my heart to stop hoping. But now, this letter brought back all the feelings I had buried. I walked into my room and sat on the edge of my bed. I held the letter like it might break. Slowly, I opened it. Inside was one page, folded neatly. The paper smelled faintly of lavender, my mother's old perfume. I unfolded it and read, "Emma, I don't know how to begin. I've tried to write this letter many times, but the words never came out right. I know I haven't been the mother you needed. I was cold. I was distant. I didn't protect you. I let you grow up feeling unwanted. And for that, I'm sorry. I'm not well now. The doctors say I don't have much time left. Before it's too late, I need to tell you something important. About Grace, your father, and the things I never had the courage to explain. If you can, please come home. I want to see you one last time. Mum." Tears ran down my face before I even finished reading. I didn't know what to feel. Anger? Pain? Confusion? I had waited so long for a word, any word, from her. And now, when she was dying, she remembered me. I thought about the years I spent crying in silence, hoping for a hug, a kind word, or a smile that never came. And now she wanted me to come back. I lay down on my bed and stared at the ceiling. The letter rested on my chest like a heavy weight. I remembered Grace's voice, soft and full of love. She always said, "Emma, we don't get to choose our family, but we can choose what we carry in our hearts." That night I didn't sleep. I thought about my life in Dublin, my friends, my freedom, and the broken past I had tried to escape. I had built a new life. Did I really want to return to that house of silence? The next morning I woke up before the sun. I packed a small bag and bought a train ticket. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just went. The train ride back to Tyrone felt strange. The fields passed by like memories, soft, green, and far away. I hadn't been home since I left. My heart was racing as we got closer. When I reached the house, it looked the same. Tall gates, perfect garden, big cold walls. But I had changed. I wasn't that small girl anymore. I was not here to beg for love. I was here for the truth. A housemaid opened the door. She gasped when she saw me. "Emma, they didn't tell me you were coming," she whispered. "Your mother is upstairs. She's been waiting." I walked through the hallway, each step echoing like a memory. I climbed the stairs slowly, my chest heavy. My mother lay in bed, her face pale, her hair thin. She looked smaller than I remembered. We stared at each other in silence. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was soft and weak. "Emma, you came." I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just said, "You said you had something to tell me." She nodded slowly. "Yes. I need to tell you the truth. About Grace. About everything." And in that moment, I knew my life was about to change again. My mother looked weak as she lay in bed, but her eyes held something I had never seen before. Pain mixed with truth. For a long time, we said nothing. The silence between us wasn't empty anymore. It was heavy, filled with everything we had never said. Then she slowly reached for my hand. Her fingers were cold, thin, and trembling. I let her hold it. Not because I had forgiven her yet, but because I needed to hear what she had to say. "Emma," she whispered, "you were never the problem. We were." Her voice broke, but she kept going. "When I married your father, I was just a girl from a quiet home. He was strong, confident, from a powerful family, but from the beginning, there were rules. His parents wanted a son. Your father wanted a son. When Grace was born, they were disappointed. When you came along, they didn't even come to the hospital." I swallowed hard, fighting the storm inside my chest. "But Grace," she said, her voice softer now, was always trying to win his love. She studied hard, stayed quiet, and followed his rules. She wanted him to be proud. She wanted him to smile at her the way he might have smiled at a son. And for a little while, I think he tried. He gave her attention. He hoped she would be enough. But deep down, he never let go of the dream of having a boy to carry his name. She paused, her eyes now filled with tears. Then the accident happened, and Grace was gone. Your father broke that day, but he didn't cry. He turned to stone. He blamed me. He blamed the world. And worst of all, he blamed you. Me? I asked, my voice thin, cracking. Yes, she said, because you were still alive. You were the reminder of what he didn't have. He saw you and remembered his pain, his failure, his anger. And I didn't have the strength to fight him. I watched you suffer, and I said nothing. I'm sorry, Emma. I was weak. I looked at her, this woman I had called mother all my life, but never really known. She was broken now, like a faded photograph of a life she never truly lived. I felt sorry for her, but the pain in my heart didn't go away. Not yet. What happened to Grace that night? I asked, the question that had haunted me for years. She wasn't just going to see her friends, my mother said. She was going to meet a boy. She had fallen in love, and your father found out. He told her she had ruined everything. He shouted at her, said she had shamed the family. Grace ran out crying. She was speeding. It was raining. The car lost control. I felt the breath leave my lungs. All this time I thought it was just an accident. But now I saw the truth. Grace died with a broken heart. After a long pause, my mother whispered, "She wrote a letter before she left. I kept it. I'll give it to you." She slowly reached into the drawer beside her and handed me an old envelope, yellowed with age. I opened it with shaking hands. The letter was short. "Dear Emma, if anything happens to me, please remember, you are brave, strong, and beautiful. Don't let this house turn you cold. Don't let them make you feel small. One day you will leave and become everything they never believed you could be. I believe in you. Grace." I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. I cried for my sister, for the years I had lost, for the child I once was who just wanted someone to love her. And as I sat beside my dying mother, I finally let go of the anger. Not for her, but for me. Because forgiveness isn't always for the person who hurt you. Sometimes it's the key to freeing yourself. A few days later, my mother passed away. I stood at her funeral, silent, calm. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because I had already said goodbye long ago. My father didn't even look at me. He stood with his business friends, cold and proud. I didn't speak to him. I didn't need to. After the funeral, I didn't go back to that house. I walked away and never returned. I sold the letter Grace had written, along with pieces of my story, to a publisher. My first book was called The Girl They Never Wanted. It became more than a story. It became a voice for every girl who was told she wasn't enough. Now I live in a small cottage by the sea. I teach young girls how to write, how to speak, and how to stand tall. I tell them, your worth isn't in your father's eyes. It's on your own. My name is Emma. I was the unwanted daughter. But I became the woman no one could silence. And that is enough.